Two founders got into Y Combinator with no engineering team and no technical background. They were building AI software for government agencies, the kind of product that would normally take a full engineering team a year to finish. They used Claude Code instead, and within months, they had a working product, they won a Virginia government contract, and they raised $11 million. And they're not the only ones. There's a solo founder running a $70,000 a month business with 0 employees. Another one who openly says he has no idea how to code and built an AI system that runs his entire company anyway. There's a pattern across multiple YC startups that built and shipped their first products the exact same way. It's that AI can now actually do the work. And if you don't understand why that's different, you're probably still building on the wrong assumption about what it takes to start a software company. Most AI coding tools work like a really smart assistant sitting next to a developer. They suggest what to type next, help finish sentences, and they speed things up. But the developer is still the one doing the work. If they have a problem they don't understand, the tool doesn't solve it. It just helps someone who already knows how to code go a little faster. Claude Code works differently. You tell it what you want in plain English, and it goes and it does it. It opens the file, it makes the changes, it runs tests, and keeps going until the job is done. You don't write the code. You just describe what needs to happen. So let's say a customer emails saying something in your app is broken. Normally, that goes to a developer. They look at it when they have time and it gets fixed sometime next week. With Claude Code, you paste that email in, it figures out what's wrong, it fixes it, and it shows you the result. 20 minutes instead of a week. And you didn't need to understand a single line of code. That's the crazy part. And it's not just that coding got faster. It's that for the first time, you don't have to know how to code at all. 𝐾 and 𝐟𝐨𝐫𝐞 started Vulcan Technologies in YC's summer 2025 batch. They were building an AI platform for government regulatory compliance, mapping laws, regulations, and case histories so agencies could actually use them. It's a technically complex product that 2 years ago would have taken a serious engineering team months just to get off the ground. Government regulatory data is notorious for being messy and hard to work with. Building something that can map relationships between laws, flag conflicts, and surface relevant history requires the kind of work that normally takes a team of engineers a long time to figure out. But Vulcan used Claude Code to build their product. It would have taken weeks, happened in hours. They shipped fast enough to win a Virginia government contract, now used across state agencies, and the product is credited with reducing home prices by $24,000 through faster regulatory processing. They raised $11 million and did all of it without the large engineering team that kind of product would have required 2 years ago. Government contracts are not easy to win. Agencies check vendors carefully. A product that wins a Virginia state contract isn't a rough prototype. It's something that actually works at a level a government official can put their name behind. Vulcan did just that. But the same thing is happening at every scale. Brock Meserich runs a solo business doing about $70,000 a month with no team. His entire operation, marketing, content, ads, day-to-day work runs through a system he built in Claude Code, and he has no engineering background. What's notable about his setup isn't just that it works, it's that it runs on its own. He's not managing these systems every day. They run while he focuses on the things that actually need him. For founders building this way, the financial side has to run the same way. Banking, expenses, bill pay, all in one place, handled automatically. That's what 𝐸 does. Link is in the description to learn more. Another example, Max Mitchum, openly says he has no idea how to code, but he built an entire internal AI system that runs most of his company's workflows through Claude Code. Content goes out automatically, research happens in the background. What used to require 6 people now runs with 1 person and 50 AI agents. And the system just keeps getting better over time because he kept adding to it, not because he hired anyone. These are founders who couldn't build it all before, and now they can. Then there's HumanLayer, a YC company from the fall 2024 batch. Their founder, 𝐷ex built their platform heavily using Claude Code, including a tool called CodeLayer. It's a coding environment designed for projects where 99% of the code is written by AI. HumanLayer isn't a simple tool. They're building for large companies managing enormous amounts of code, and they shipped it with a small team moving at a speed that would have required a bigger one years ago. For the last decade, if you had a software idea and you weren't technical, you had one real option: find a technical co-founder. That person was the gatekeeper for your aspirations. You couldn't build without them, which meant you couldn't raise without them, which meant you couldn't really start. They created a specific kind of founder purgatory that a lot of people know well. You have the idea, the domain knowledge, the customer relationships, the sales instincts, and you spent months trying to convince a developer to leave their job and bet on your vision for a fraction of the salary they'd make at a tech company. Some founders spent years in that loop. Others just gave up. And still others built companies with the wrong technical co-founder because they were the only one who could say yes. Investors reinforced it. The assumption was that a founding team without a technical co-founder wasn't really a founding team. YC accepted it, but with an asterisk. Accelerators asked about it on every application. The implicit message was that if you can't build it yourself, go find someone who can. And until you do, you're not really a startup, you're just an idea. That logic made sense when building required someone who could actually write and maintain code at every step. Someone had to be there when the system went down at 2 a.m. someone had to figure out why things were running slowly, and someone had to own the technical decisions that built up over years into a real product. But Claude Code doesn't just write code. It maintains it, it fixes bugs, cleans it up, and extends it on instruction. It can be there at 2 a.m. when something breaks. It can figure out why things are running slowly. It can handle the implementation once the founder has decided what needs to happen. Not perfectly, there are still problems that need a real engineer. But for the early stages from getting from zero to something real, the gap between what a non-technical founder can do with Claude Code and what they used to need a co-founder for has collapsed. That doesn't mean engineers are irrelevant. It means getting from idea to working product no longer requires one. 𝐼𝐸, another 𝐦𝐶25 company, built their AI account management platform using Claude Code to handle workflows that would have been a serious lift for a small team just a couple of years ago. The pattern across multiple 𝐦𝐶25 companies is the same. Claude Code is how early stage teams are moving at a speed that used to require a much bigger team. That change happened because the way products get built changed. Most people assume the big unlock here is that you can build faster, and that's certainly true, but it's actually the smaller part of it. The bigger thing is that you make better decisions. When you need a technical co-founder to build anything, every product call is a negotiation. You have an idea, they have to build it, and there's friction in the middle around timing, priority, and what's actually possible. Even in a good co-founder relationship, the person with the idea and the person who has to execute it don't always agree on what matters most right now. That gap costs time. It also creates a pattern that's easy to miss while it's happening. Because non-technical founders can't touch the product themselves, they gradually stop pushing on things. They don't want to pile more work on their co-founder. And they start maybe making decisions based on what they think is realistic instead of what they actually want to build. And as a result, over time, the product becomes a compromise instead of the thing the founder originally had in mind. Most people don't realize this has happened until they look back at what they wanted to build versus what actually got built and see the gap. With Claude Code, that problem is gone. You don't need to wait for anyone else to execute. An idea you have at 9 a.m. can be a working prototype by noon. You can test whether something actually works before committing to it. You can respond to a client the same day, and you can change your mind without worrying about how much work you're creating for someone else. When testing an idea costs you an afternoon instead of 2 weeks of someone else's time, you run more experiments. You kill bad ideas faster, and you find out what works before you spent months building something that doesn't. And in the early stages, that's often the difference between figuring out what customers actually want and running out of money while you're still trying to figure it out. But the one thing that can quietly derail a founder moving at this speed is the money side of the business falling behind. Revenue comes in, tool costs go up, a few subscriptions auto-renew, and suddenly you don't know where your runway stands. That's why a lot of founders building this way use 𝐸. Banking, cards, expenses, and bill pay in one place, running automatically in the background so the books stay clean without anyone managing them. Link is in the description below. Most founders building this way are only starting to realize that the speed was never really the point in the first place. It's that for the first time, they're the ones making every call. Knowing Claude Code can do this and actually getting it to work for your specific company are two different problems. The founders winning right now figured out how to actually use it, what to hand off, how to ask for what they want, and where it falls short. That's not obvious when you first open it, but the ones who cracked it are building things that would have taken a full engineering team 2 years ago. That gap between the founders who figured this out and the ones who haven't is pretty wide right now, but it won't stay that way. The next video gets into the founders already doing this, how old they are, what they're building, and how fast it's actually happening.